They call me the father of modern drama, you know, the destroyer of romantic illusions, the herald of realism, the enemy of tradition. How little they understand. I have spent my entire career not destroying the ancient stories, but revealing their eternal power beneath the surface of our modern Norwegian drawing rooms. Every character I created, every name I chose, every plot I constructed, all of it was deliberate, all of it biblical, all of it a vast theological argument conducted through drama rather than dogma. You want to know my secret? I shall tell you, though I doubt the critics will understand even now. They have painted me as a secularist, a modernist who abandoned religion for psychological realism. What fools! I never abandoned religion. I purified it, stripped away centuries of institutional mediation to return to the Hebrew source itself. It began in Rome, irony worthy of one of my own plays. In 1865, sitting in the very heart of Catholic power, I read nothing but the Bible. There is a blessed peace out here, and I read nothing but the Bible. It is powerful and strong. There, surrounded by centuries of accumulated theology, I discovered the archetypal patterns that would shape everything I wrote thereafter. This book taught me that a Norwegian Lutheran could find common cause with ancient Hebrew wisdom against institutional Christianity's claims to interpretive monopoly. But perhaps I was naive. Did I oversimplify the complexity of faith? Sometimes I wonder if my characters suffered from my theological certainties. Take Brand, my stern pastor who demands all or nothing. They see religious fanaticism but miss the deeper pattern. Brand is Moses. His name means firebrand in Old Norse, the burning bush made human. Like Moses, he receives revelation on the heights while people below make compromises. Like Moses, he dies alone, glimpsing truth but unable to enter the promised land himself. But here is what critics never grasped. Brand represents direct divine revelation that bypasses ecclesiastical hierarchy. When the avalanche crushes him, declaring he is the God of love, this completes rather than condemns his fierce justice, the Lutheran synthesis of law and gospel. Though I confess sometimes I fear I made him too harsh, too unyielding. Did my theology make me cruel to my own creation? And Peer Gynt? The charming rogue everyone loves is the prodigal son translated into Norwegian folklore. Peer from Peter means rock, but stubborn stone that must be broken before becoming Christ's foundation. His journey, leaving home, squandering inheritance, wandering, degradation, return to Solveig's patient love. This is pure gospel narrative. Solveig, whose name means strength of the sun, represents sola gratia, unmerited grace that saves not through Catholic works, but through divine mercy made manifest in human faithfulness. I named my own wife Susanna, the Hebrew form meaning lily, when I could have kept the Norwegian Suzanne. Even in my personal life, I was asserting Hebrew authority over Latin tradition. Was I imposing my theological vision on those I loved? Sometimes I wonder if Susanna bore the weight of being both wife and symbol. I was not alone in this enterprise. Georg Brandes, born Morris Cohen before he Germanized his name, became my unlikely ally. A Lutheran playwright and Danish Jew, united in returning to biblical sources that bypassed Catholic interpretive monopoly. It was a second Reformation conducted through dramatic criticism rather than theological treatise. Each name I chose carried theological weight. Nora Helmer, honor protected by a helmet of false security that must shatter for true knowledge to emerge. Like Eve, her awakening transforms innocence into necessary exile. Hedda Gabler bears a name meaning battle, like Jezebel using manipulation rather than honest combat, ultimately destroying herself. Dr. Stockman combines Thomas the Twin, healer and truth-teller with Stockman, standing firm like Jeremiah against popular corruption. And John Gabriel Borkman, three names invoking divine grace and divine strength, combined with Borkman, Birchman, connected to growth and nature. Yet Borkman's greed and isolation represent the complete inversion of his name's divine potential. He is King Saul who lost divine favor, or Solomon whose wisdom was corrupted by material excess, the tragedy of squandered divine gifts. Do you begin to see the systematic nature of this enterprise? I was not simply choosing Norwegian names that sounded authentic. I was creating a dramatic universe where biblical archetypes could operate in modern dress, where the eternal spiritual conflicts could play out in recognizable bourgeois settings. but where the true theological drama remained hidden beneath the surface, visible only to those who understood the code. This is why Emperor and Galilean remains my most important work, though the public has never properly understood it. Julian the Apostate allied himself with the Jews, attempted to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem precisely to undermine Christian claims that the temple's destruction proved Christianity's triumph over Judaism. Julian saw what I saw, that institutional Christianity, especially Roman Christianity, had corrupted the biblical message, and that Jews and pagans might be natural allies in restoring authentic spiritual vision. My Julian represents the eternal struggle between institutional religion and direct spiritual experience. His attempt to synthesize Greek philosophy with Hebrew wisdom, bypassing Christian mediation entirely, this was my own theological project translated into historical drama. The Third Empire he envisions is not some vague future synthesis, but the immediate possibility of spiritual truth operating independently of Catholic authority. But here I must confess a great sadness, the breaking of the alliance that had sustained my early work. Brandes, my Jewish comrade in this biblical revolution, eventually turned against me when he realized the depth of my actual Christian commitment. He had thought we were both essentially secular, using biblical material for cultural and political purposes. When he discovered that I genuinely believed in the divine reality behind these archetypal patterns, he felt betrayed. Our correspondence reveals the tragedy. In 1879, the very year A Doll's House premiered with its revolutionary portrayal of Nora's awakening, Brandes was calling me backwardly conservative. He stopped writing positively about my major works, began describing them as bland in his letters to other critics. The man who had once championed my biblical dramaturgy now saw it as religious regression rather than spiritual liberation. You see, Brandes wanted the critique of Catholic authority without the affirmation of divine reality. He wanted the moral power of Hebrew scripture without the theological commitment it demanded. When he realized I was not simply using biblical material, but actually believed in its spiritual truth, our alliance collapsed. He became yet another secular critic who could not distinguish between rejecting Catholic corruption and rejecting religious faith itself. But the work was already done. Through play after play, I had demonstrated that the ancient stories retained their power to illuminate modern spiritual crises, that Brand's Mosaic severity and Pierre's prodigal wandering, Nora's Edenic awakening and Hedda's Jezebel-like destruction, Borkman's Solomonic fall and Stockman's Jeremiadic truth-telling, all of these represented not historical curiosities, but eternal human possibilities. Archetypal patterns that would continue to manifest as long as human beings struggled with questions of moral choice and spiritual destiny. My method was always the same. Take a biblical archetype, discover its etymological roots in Hebrew or Greek, then embed that figure in the most recognizable contemporary Norwegian setting, allowing the ancient pattern to work its transformative power on modern audiences. The drawing room becomes Eden, the bank becomes the temple of Mammon, the photographic studio becomes the place where truth and illusion struggle for supremacy. This is why I read only the Bible in Rome, surrounded by all that Catholic art and architecture. I was not rejecting beauty or tradition, I was seeking the source from which all authentic beauty and tradition spring. The Hebrew scriptures in their original power before centuries of papal interpretation had obscured their revolutionary message. They call me a realist, but I was the opposite of a realist. I was a prophet disguised as a playwright, a theologian working through character and plot rather than doctrine and dogma. Every bourgeois drawing room I created was actually a sacred space where eternal spiritual conflicts played out under cover of contemporary social drama. Now, at the end, I can see the full pattern. I created a dramatic language that smuggled Hebrew wisdom into Norwegian drawing rooms. That challenged institutional Christianity not through theological argument but through archetypal narrative. Whether future generations will decode this secret architecture, I cannot say. This was my life's work. Not destroying religious tradition, but liberating it from corruption. I was Moses breaking the tablets of Catholic law to inscribe the commandments afresh. I was peer returning home to find divine grace waiting all along. The secret architecture stands, waiting for those who know how to read the blueprint written in Hebrew etymologies and biblical archetypes. In Norwegian characters who carry within themselves the genetic code of Scripture itself. Dvertimod, on the contrary. They think I rejected the old faith, but I revealed its eternal power.